Every year, several hundred laws take effect, and this is where it all happens, the state's capital. I'm Michael Grant. Welcome to this special edition of Horizon, How a Bill Becomes a Law. For the next half hour, you're going to see the legislative process as you have never seen it before, from concept to the governor's stamp of approval. She is called Winged Victory, but a number of people around here think she should be referred to as a wing and a prayer.
The House will now please come to order. Members will register their roll call vote. Please do not register till you hear the sound of the bell. Members will now proceed to register.
They will have to face the music of the voters when they do that. The voters will know exactly who's responsible.
When you explain the tedious process from the beginning to end, everybody says, how does it ever happen? There are so many checks and balances. There's so many roadblocks that are put up. It's a miracle that bills do become law.
In your opinion, Mr. Green, I'm not comfortable with the bill, period. I mean, it seems like we're doing something for the sake of doing something.
Just so you understand where we are, this is a work in progress.
Hey, look at this.
Of bills filed, I would say about a third of them become law.
The vast majority of our work, it's done informally on the floor.
There's a lot more ways to kill a bill than to get it passed.
I'd come back to what Bismarck said so many years ago, and others have stolen and borrowed it from him, but it still remains true. There are two things in life no one should ever see, the making of sausage and the making of legislation.
So the old-fashioned way that I see is that you figure out what you have, and you figure out what's important. And then that's what you go for.
How a bill becomes a law, not an easy road to travel, even if you remove the human elements, like politics.
The technical process by which a bill becomes law is one thing. The actual human element that enters into it is quite often another one. I was talking with a page just this morning, and I asked her how she had liked what she had experienced so far. And one of her observations was that the process was far more human than she had thought that it was. There was a lot more going on in the hallways, in the hearing rooms, in the back of the chamber, out in the front of the building than she had thought. And there were a lot more one-on-one groups or small groups of 3 or 4 people that were dealing with things.
Understanding how a bill becomes law can be as confusing and difficult as trying to understand a bill reader. Who reads that fast because the Constitution requires all bills to be read out loud.
Clerk will now record the vote by your votes of 54 ayes and 0 noes and 6 not voting. House Bill 2560 with the emergency measure does pass. Signed into open session. Clerk is instructed to record the actions of the House and convey the bill to the Senate. Now, the system was designed to make sure that it's as cumbersome and as long as you could possibly make it. And that's not for the good things to be killed. It's for the bad things, obviously, to be killed as it goes through the process.
3/4 passes it with Section 21, 16 passes it without Section 21. In favor of the measure, vote aye. Opposed, vote no. The system is now open. The Senate will proceed to vote.
A wagon train heading west from Independence, Missouri to the gold fields. You know you're in search of gold. You know roughly the routes you want to take, but you don't know what's going to happen. You could get attacked by bad guys along the way. You could have rainstorms. You could have all kinds of things happen that take part of your wagon train away, and your ultimate goal is to get some or all of that wagon train out to California.
Today I'd like to talk to you about an orb that's in the budget. And this particular orb takes money from the states and the counties, $26.7 million, to use for welfare for the rich.
I will do everything I can to ensure that that part of the orb is removed and it goes onto a bill so that the bill goes through the process and it's appropriately debated in the caucus and the committee of the whole.
The bill enters the legislative journey at the idea stage. In a 100-day session, there are 16 working days in the Senate and 21 working days in the House to introduce a bill. That can vary with longer sessions.
See, it didn't used to be that way because the budget was the last one, and so everybody traded their votes for the budget, and that kept us here a lot longer than this 8 days on the budget.
The idea can come from you, a lobbyist, or a number of other sources. Senator Randall Gannant of Scottsdale has authored a book about the legislative process.
There are a number of ways bills can get started, a number of ways ideas can come about for bills. Quite a few suggestions for bills come from constituents, people who have noticed in the course of their daily lives that legislation should possibly be changed. We have a number of changes that come through each year from department heads of the various state departments who will offer suggestions. We make technical corrections each year to errors we inadvertently created in the previous year.
The next stop for the idea is sponsorship.
If that was the bill we were going to run, it would have been a good bill with several amendments.
Only a member of the legislature, either the House or the Senate, can introduce a piece of legislation. The governor cannot introduce legislation. Agency heads cannot introduce legislation. Lobbyists cannot institute legislation. Only a legislator.
After that, the embryonic bill heads to the Legislative Council, a group of staff attorneys who take an idea for a law and put it in bill form. Jay Cavity Smith is an attorney for Legislative Council. Every year, his office creates about 1,600 bill files, which are needed to give notice that a bill is about to be created.
We begin to receive requests for new legislation shortly after the end of a preceding session. And all bill requests have to come through our office, and all bill requests have to have a sponsor who's a legislator. We receive requests that sometimes are very detailed, sometimes rather sketchy, but we'll work closely with the sponsor to develop something that's technically correct, constitutional, and that, as closely as we can, reveals clearly the intent of the legislator.
Although Legislative Council checks for constitutionality of bills, they don't have the authority to stop a bill. It's up to the sponsor after he or she is alerted. And bills may come in the form of a fully drafted piece of legislation to just an idea.
Those are the bills that don't require too much trouble for us, but we have to review everything to make sure that that it's going to conform with the statutes, that the internal references are correct, for example.
Once the bill is drafted, signatures of co-sponsors are collected, then it's ready to be tossed into the hopper, where the bill starts its journey in earnest. That's where the chief clerk of the House and the secretary of the Senate jump into the process. They are administrative officials. The two officers perform similar functions, including the printing of bills.
Once a member actually gets their copy of the bill from Legislative Council, they get signatures on the bill of a number of other House members and senators who they want to sponsor the bill. They come in our office over in the corner and put the bill in the hopper, and then we assign the bill number and we process it, print it, index it. Then the process begins for each bill when it happens.
Senate bills are numbered starting with 1,000, House bills starting with 2,000.
We are the starting point, and we're the ending point as far as the paperwork. We are a record keeper. My office is the record keeping. If there's any suits or anything else, they come to our office to do all their research. But as the bills start out in the process, they drop the bills in our hopper, which you've probably heard about, and we put a number to it, and then we start the distribution process. Then once a bill is assigned to committee, we prepare all of the paperwork that goes across the floor here. Anything that we read here in the chambers goes into our journal.
Now that the bill is drafted, numbered, and has a sponsor, it's ready to go either to the Senate President or the Speaker of the House, depending on where the bill originated.
Those in favor of the measure vote ayes. Opposed to vote no. The system is now open. Senate will proceed to vote.
Now, the President and the Speaker have immense authority. They have roughly the same amount of authority that they had in years past, but in years past they used that authority in much more of a partisan nature than they use it today. Our Constitution requires that all bills have to be read 3 times. This, quite frankly, harkens back to the old days when not everyone in the legislature necessarily was literate and could read bills, or back to the days when we didn't have high-speed copying machines and duplicating machines to make enough copies of the bills for all of the members to have them. So by reading a bill 3 times, the thought was that the legislators could at least hear that bill 3 times and be able to render a judgment as to whether they should vote for it or against it.
The daily myriad paperwork that was required under Proposition 200.
In the Senate, the bill gets first read, then gets second read the next day. All bills get a first or second read in the Senate. In the House, both first and second reads are done in one day. After that is when the power of the President and the Speaker come into play. They are responsible for assigning bills to committees.
You and I do not agree in that you feel that some kind of a standard should be set for the state.
Well, I can't really kill a bill by assigning it to committees, and nor, quite frankly, should I want to. The idea of bill assignment is to assign it to the proper committees, but I'm not going to kid you. Once in a while, you can assign a bill to a committee that you can make a case is proper when you know that the makeup of that committee is not going to be too friendly to that bill. Now, we've got an out, though. If enough members want to, they can sign a petition to get that bill discharged from that committee. So you have to be judicious in how you use it, and generally believe, I think, that the majority of the members ought to decide what happens to legislation.
Maybe from your experience in other states or heard about what are we trying to do here?
I wouldn't take it as a good sign, no. It means a lot of times it may not be a good bill by the impressions or at least the views of the Speaker. A lot of times there's a bill that truly does affect 3 or 4 different areas of government. Sometimes it's a transportation issue, but also will deal with government entities as far as government operations. And then it'll also carry appropriations out of the general fund. So to put it to transportation and to government affairs and then also into appropriations would not be completely inappropriate.
I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to put this in subcommittee for 1 week and allow the parties to resolve this amendment. I think the bill is good.
Why would the Speaker or President want to stop a bill at that point?
Why would I want to kill a bill? I don't think it's good public policy. If something is moving through the system that is against my principles as an elected legislator, I'm going to want to kill that bill or wound it, or at least put it in such a position that if it does pass here, the members of the House of Representatives know about it, and perhaps they can kill it over there.
The next stop for the bill is possibly one of the most critical. A committee is where the bill is debated and testimony taken. The deadline to get a bill to committee is about 30 working days in a 100-day session.
The bill, when profit, not health, is the objective, I think it poses a real threat to the...
Once a bill has been assigned to a committee, the powers of the committee chairman really come into play. Now, the President or the Speaker can at any time withdraw a bill from a committee if he or she does not like the way it's progressing. But by and large, the committee chairman then has control of the bill. Interestingly enough, about a third or a little bit more of all of the bills that are assigned to committees are never heard in committee. But once a bill is assigned to committee, it stands a very good chance of becoming law. In some years, over 90% of all of the bills, even scheduled for a committee hearing and voted out of committee, end up becoming law.
Once in a committee, the bill can also be routed to a subcommittee.
It doesn't happen that often, but whenever a bill is assigned to a subcommittee, the sponsor generally gets worried, because even if it's not going to get killed, it's at least going to be held up, because subcommittee hearings also have to be noticed, and more time elapses before the bill can come back to the full committee.
By now, a bill has cleared several hurdles, but there's still a lot more to come. One stop that every bill must make is the Rules Committee.
Is there any discussion? Senator Blanchard.
The Rules Committee is there to assure that bills are constitutional and that there are no technical problems with the bill that it would interfere with existing law or federal law.
What happens if the bill is found unconstitutional?
If the Rules Committee decides a bill is unconstitutional, then it's either dead in rules or it's subject to a discharge.
Politics is another reason a bill can die in the Rules Committee.
It has happened. I have not chosen to do that this year so far, although I retain that right. Generally speaking, the Rules Committee deals with strictly constitutional or technical legal issues.
If the Rules Committee gives its stamp of approval to the bill, the next stop is caucus. A caucus is where members of one party meet to discuss a bill. There is no voting in caucus. although a lawmaker might be able to gauge from caucus how his or her legislation is progressing.
You will have members that will say, I'm a no on this bill. That's advance notice to the sponsor that they're not going to support it on the floor. They're not under any obligation to say that, but as a matter of courtesy, a lot of times members will do that. Some members will say, I just want everybody to know that I'm going to run an amendment on the floor that does such and such, such and such to the bill, and sometimes they'll discuss that proposed amendment.
At this point, lawmakers have a cow, which is a good thing for the sponsor of the bill.
Mr. Chairman and members, that I introduced this floor amendment because I think it's critical and important that we do not forget the necessity of adding additional monies to our public school systems.
COW is an acronym for Committee of the Whole, which is like a super committee made up of every member of the House or Senate. Usually, by this point in the life of a bill, a sponsor has a good idea of how his bill is doing, but much time might be spent on the floor working the bill.
You'll notice oftentimes during a floor session, it almost looks as if no one's paying attention to the reader or the chairman, because there are little groups of people that you can see in the Senate floor. And they are probably discussing different pieces of legislation, who's on board, who's not on board, what can we do to get so-and-so on board, how can we peel such and such off, what can we do to compromise to get this piece of legislation to work. I get nobody to go with me.
A bill can be amended in Committee of the Whole or in a regular committee. At this point, the bill is ready for the constitutionally mandated third read.
House Bill 2999 does pass, signed into open session. The clerk is instructed to record the action of the House and convey the bill to the Senate.
An informal voice vote has already been taken.
Those in favor vote aye. Aye. Those opposed nay. Who's ayes have it, you have the floor.
The formal vote is the third read, where you see us pushing buttons and the vote being tallied on the tote board up there. After a bill has cleared Committee of the Whole, it goes to third reading, and after third reading, we vote. There's no debate, but we are allowed to explain our votes, and sometimes the explanation of votes can sound suspiciously like debate, but we vote the bill up or down, and if we approve the bill, it goes over to the House. If we don't approve the bill, it's dead.
So the process is now complete in one chamber. The bill then heads over across the mall to the other chamber. By then, it is an engrossed bill, which means it has all amendments plus the original language of the bill, all in one package.
Once a bill has passed third reading in the Senate, if the bill originated in the Senate, it goes over to the House, and the entire process starts all over again. Everything that we've talked about that took place in the Senate has to take place in the House. It's as if it was a brand new bill.
If there are any differences in bills, that can be remedied in what is known as a conference committee. The deadline to get bills to conference committee in a 100-day session is 66 working days.
We've done a lot of work with the committee members behind the scenes, and the governor, because this bill is so special and important to the governor, has weighed in very heavily with his committee members, and I'm very pleased that the Democrats see this also. I have good relations with those Democrats, and they have been supportive. So,
in those cases, in cases where the bill has passed both houses but has passed in different forms, then a conference committee is appointed consisting of members of both houses and both parties, and they get together to decide on one version of the bill. It could be the House version, it could be the Senate version, it could be a third version. When that happens, whatever version is agreed upon by the conference committee, both houses get one chance to vote that bill up or down.
If a bill has survived up to this point, it's just about ready to become law. But there's one more big hurdle: the governor.
The Arizona Constitution does not give the governor unlimited powers. I contend that the governor's powers are consensus building, trying to get the folks together, the whole idea of how we make something work by persuasion, hopefully not threats, and shape legislation that's good for the whole state.
After the session ends, the governor is deluged with bills that have made it through the winnowing process.
Technically, we have 5 days to sign the bill. In case of the special session, once it's adjourned, we have 10 days. The bills do pile up at the end. Once the session is about over, there are upwards of 200 bills that will come through at the very end. Hopefully we've monitored them. We're going to look at them closely. And the options are to veto them, to sign them, or to let them go in law without a signature.
I am proposing a program called Kids Care that will provide health insurance to Arizona's most in-need children.
Obviously, the governor does a lot more than sign and veto bills. She proposes legislation during her State of the State address, which kicks off the session, and during the session, she keeps an eye on her bills.
We've got two kinds of lobbying that go on up here. We monitor very closely because, as I've said, I don't want to veto something. I'd rather work with the members to make sure that it's acceptable to all sides. Secondly, our policy people monitor bills very, very closely.
No, it's already done. It will go to the floor of the House. It won't be amended any further.
How does Governor Hull describe the bill-making process?
At one point, I described it as a process in which, although I may be the CEO, I have 90-member board of directors in the legislature, and they each have a vote. And it's extremely important that I work with all of them.
That's accomplished through what's known as a vehicle bill, or a strike-all amendment, where a bill on a certain topic is gutted and new language is put in. That because of the deadline for introducing new bills.
There's not too many bills that are introduced as vehicles. You know, sometimes they're given as the spare tire in the trunk. You got to have something just for a contingency or as a last-minute measure. And what happens is by rule that there's a certain amount of time that bills cannot be introduced anymore. And you'll find a bill, and it can be of a different nature, a different subject matter, and you'll take the bill that you want, and you'll simply just lay it on top of it. It maintains the original title, it's got the original number, but it's a brand new bill altogether.
By now, all the roadblocks have been cleared, and the bill is a signature away from becoming law.
Now that you've seen the official process for making a law in Arizona step by step, how about the other parts, like the negotiation and the compromise that happen outside the official process? One of these is called the box. It's the process to decide how to spend discretionary funds.
I am out of the box.
I've got a thing or two that are partially in the box for less money than we hoped for, but I got a lot more things that were out of the box.
I got most of my bills were in the box. They weren't the amount of money that was requested.
We are out of the box on behalf of Arizona Association of Industries.
So what the heck is the box? Think outside the box for the answer.
Well, this is the box. And the box represents the amount of money that the legislature has available, either for spending on new spending projects, or for tax cuts, or for putting in the rainy day fund, or things like that.
Matter of fact, lawmakers have only $6 million in the box this year, money they can spend on a wide variety of projects they want, but might not get.
We have Ames remediation, 95% of the people failing that test. I think that we need to give school districts some opportunity to allow their students to pass this test. There is a tremendous teacher shortage in this state.
Well, we got in there, it looks like, we got in there $500,000 of general fund monies, and then it looks like maybe the court and the Department of Corrections are going to have some money to help us out and to build some of these juvenile facilities.
Well, I got some Safe Schools money appropriation for the World War II Memorial.
Last year, lawmakers started working on the budget only once every 2 years, the biennial budget. And since they didn't have a budget to negotiate this session, the box gained importance.
Well, certainly it does, because we budgeted for most of our agencies last year when we did the 2-year budget. And so the box is only supposed to contain those bills which have come up since last year. Bills that were dealt with last year aren't supposed to be dealt with again this year for the same subject.
This pile of toys won't fit in this box, just like the $1.7 billion of requests made for this year's $6 million box.
Well, no, we can't. We can try. We can try to get some of these things in the box, but they're not all gonna fit. Well, we have to look at all of the requests that we have. We have to keep in mind the size of our box, and we have to make some adjustments. Here's what I mean. We might not have room for this appropriation. We might have room for this one. And we might not have room for an appropriation of this size, but we might have room for an appropriation of this size. Some of these, there's just no way that we're going to fund. This one, we can afford the way it was proposed. This one needs a lot of work. There, that should fit. This is a pretty big request, isn't it? Fortunately, there's something we can do to this request. There, it'll fit. And this is the box for this year. We had some winners, we had a lot of losers, we had a lot that got reduced.
Thank you for joining us on The Making of a Law, a Horizon special. We hope you have a better understanding now of how a bill becomes a law. I'm Michael Grain.
If you have comments about Horizon, please contact us at the addresses listed on your screen. Your name and comments may be used on a future edition of Horizon.